while I'm blowing through the stop signs. Babe, I'm running out of time, running all the red lights. Running all the red lights, hitting 90 down Riverside. Got me working all for you into overtime. And you know what's on my mind, while I'm blowing through the stop signs. Babe, I'm running out of time, running all the red lights. Running all the red lights, through the sirens speeding by. Got me working all for you into overtime. And it's almost paradise as I pray to make it through the night. Babe, I'm running out of time, running all the red lights.
Yeah, I'm hoping that loving you ain't a crime, yeah. I'm steady trying to put in my time, yeah. Tell me if we're running out of time.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining the Q&A for the Shorts program HEAL, the Undocumented Filmmakers Collective short showcase curated by Josaen Ronquillo and the Undocumented Filmmakers Collective. My name is Crisa Sotomayor, and I'm the programming director for the Philadelphia Latino Film Festival and the awards competition manager for IDA. I will be moderating this conversation. So my pronouns are they and she, and I'm a Latinx person with red hair and a gray turtleneck sweater. So now I'm going to pass it over to the incredible filmmakers so that they can all introduce themselves. So please say your name, film and role, pronouns, and provide an image description. Feel free to popcorn it. Should I call on the first person? Set, you're up.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much, Cristel, for having us. My name is Seth Hernandez Ronquillo. They, them, she, her, he, him. I use all pronouns. I'm the director, producer, editor for Coverage, and I am a person with an olive complexion, black beard, black hair, and behind me is art in my background. A popcorn to Nirav.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nirav Bakta, he, him, his. My film is called Thank You Come Again, and I'm brown with very long hair. I'm wearing a baseball cap and a gray hoodie, and there's a sheep behind me. And I'll popcorn to Nicole.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Solis-Sison. I am the producer for the short film FYI, directed by Paulo Rain. And my pronouns are she, her, hers. And I am a olive-skinned person with mixed identity, with brown features. And my background is cluttered. And I will popcorn to Jazz.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jazz Gore. I'm the writer and producer for Udare Sapne, or Borrowed Dreams in English. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And for my image description, I'm an Indian woman with mid-length black hair and an orange dress. I'll pass it over to Ame.
Hey, everyone. My name is Paulo Rain. My alias is Ame. One of the directors and writers for FYI and the GEM project. My image description is that I am a brown Filipino with curly hair, with I believe a gray-white sweater and a white room. And I'll pass it over to Eriko.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eriko Tsogo. I directed and animated Tears of the Sky. My pronouns are she, her. I'm an olive person with brown features, and my background is plants, and the sun is setting in Denver, Colorado. Thank you so much, Paf, for having us.
Thank you all for being here. Your films were definitely such a treat to watch. Very different storytelling, very different styles. The inclusion of animation, documentary, narrative films was just so wonderful. Yes, Josaen in the chat. Love you. Thank you so much for putting this together. It's really such a treat and really a a beautiful evolution through the stories. So really well curated. So I wanted to ask you all, how did you get started working on the projects that you showed here? We can also popcorn it. So who wants to go first?
I guess I'll go ahead. I think that it's a very special project, FYI, the short film that we created, because it is the first short film and artistic project that the Undocumented Filmmakers Collective created as a group. And we've been an organization now for about 3 years. This will be our 3-year anniversary coming up. And the fact that it took us 3 years to create something is beautiful. And it was an entire cast and crew of undocumented individuals, currently or previously. And so the root of the story was really captured in all our collective experiences. So just really proud that we're able to really share this space with fellow filmmakers and a supportive group that was able to really not only create this project, but we were also able to elevate other projects along the way.
Who would like to go next? I'll just call on people, I guess. Yeah, Jazz.
I somehow knew you were going to call on me. So the film, Udare Sapne, it was the first film that was produced by Brown Girl Joy Productions. And it's a production company that I co-founded along with my 2 amazing sisters, Amrit and Amani. And our film is, not surprisingly, about 2 sisters who deal with the aftermath of their parents disappearing due to their immigration status. And I think this was just something that the 3 of us had honestly been preparing for our entire lives. And so this film was just us trying to process and us trying to see if there was any way for us to imagine different possibilities or really work through some of that trauma and see if there was any way that we could heal. Also, just creating a film with my sisters was just such a beautiful experience. There was so much tenderness. We all felt very raw through the entire process. And I think, yeah, it really just set us up for all of the work that we're doing now, and really just seeing that film on screen and seeing the impact that it has had on the people who watch it, who come from a similar background, has been absolutely beautiful. And even when I watched it for this film festival, I was like, oh no, I can't believe we actually made that, and just how raw it was. Yeah, that's kind of where it came from, and I'm so glad that we're able to share it with all of you.
Erica.
My film, Tears of the Sky, it's a short animation. I used traditional stop motion animation techniques to make this film. It was actually my first, I would say, in terms of becoming serious about film, kind of incorporating my art background. I'm a fine artist. And so I just did, thousands of photography renderings and kind of worked with armature and kept very minimal black and white. But essentially the short acts as a preliminary screener for my feature-length film, which is currently in development still in its early phases. Thank you so much. The film and the short kind of chronicles my journey back home to Mongolia after 22 years of absence because of my DACA status. I'm a DACA recipient as of 2013. And I used a lot of Mongolian symbology, and the short is sort of based on a Mongolian folklore about the marginal identity. And so the kind of 2 central figures you will see is the binary person inside, kind of split into 2. And I used a lot of like simple minimal aesthetics, a lot of just line work and black and white and gray tones. For the soundtrack, it's My Mother Lullaby. It's a traditional Mongolian lullaby, and I just wanted to really evoke that kind of sentimental value of the story, but also keep it vague and keep it a subjective experience for the viewer, so they may understand it however they want. And so the kind of short really functions, I guess, in its own way. It just like has its own definition. So I try not to define it too much, but it really does act as a preliminary to the future. And I believe that's it, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, I'm very honored to be part of United, the Undocumented Film Collective. I just always very grateful, and also for this honor to be part of PAF. Thank you.
Wonderful. Nirav, please tell me if I'm pronouncing names wrong.
It's near of, like you're near
Nirav.
of something.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Thank You Come Again was made a part of a fellowship called Armed with the Camera at Visual Communications. So the film is about an undocumented convenience store clerk who comes crashing into his subconscious as he's going through the 5 stages of grief. It was inspired by a feeling or a moment in a post 9/11 world where my brown skin came to an intersection of either being a very comedic caricature coming from the trope of a poo, or then in a post 9/11 world being seen as a dangerous threat or a terrorist. And it was just a weird feeling also for me being undocumented at the time. I've never really explored that or expressed that before. So I think this film was quite experimental for me because it's still hard to articulate that experience. And I think the only way I could have done it was through just experimenting through narrative.
Paulo.
Yeah, I think with FYI, I think I think Nicole had brought up the opportunity when working through the Undocumented Filmmakers Collective and working alongside AMP and the opportunity kind of got brought up where some members within UFC had came to the idea of making a short film, and I think with the film, we wanted to explore elements of like absurdity with a lot of casting directors and a lot of experiences and nuances within specific film industry fields and everything. But I think from my observations and from being in such a space and in such a community where folks really share a lot of perspectives, I really wanted to explore what kind of asking the questions of like what happens after those absurd casting auditions and things that sometimes are brushed off like in comedies and everything, and I really wanted to explore those experiences and feelings because I think those experiences and feelings are extremely valid, and so I was asked to work with an amazing team of undocumented creators and creatives and writers, and really had heart to heart conversations about personal and individual experiences while looking at it through a collective lens and everything. Yeah, and I think with the Gem project, I was asked by Sultry, who's also an undocumented artist, rapper, Caribbean, what's called reggae artist, and everything. And they had asked me that they have they had a series of songs that they wanted to do in an album. I believe it was like 8 songs, and they had asked me to do a musical. And I think during that time of, I guess, my life and my career, I was like a musical would be a little bit difficult, but there's never really been any AAPI visual album and everything. And so that's something I really wanted to explore, where maybe we could take a step back from the narrative fields and really explore storytelling through different surrealisms and different lenses and everything. And that's kind of how I got involved with the Gem project, and to try to kind of bring that into life, which I think is really exciting to to really see such a visual album with key visuals that are from your culture and different cultures and everything.
Wonderful. Set.
Yes, thank you, everyone. It's so beautiful to hear from everyone's work and how they develop their projects. Coverage came about because I was working at an organization that was part of the Health for All campaign, which seeks to expand healthcare access for undocumented immigrants in California. And the often the conversation around immigration, it doesn't really include access to healthcare, and there's often this misconception, or just like an overlooking of the fact that undocumented immigrants also have healthcare needs, and we're just as human as everybody else and need access to healthcare. And around the time that we created it, also there was this conversation around Medicare for all, and that all during in the rhetoric of the mainstream United States really is everyone but undocumented immigrants. So the desire to create coverage is really to uplift this often not discussed issue. And in also a lot of the immigration rhetoric, it often uplifts younger people, students. It often uplifts cisgender people. And what we really wanted to do with coverage is highlight voices that are not often amplified in the media, like elderly people, transmasculine folks. And with coverage, we wanted to bring these conversations together, and while also centering the leadership of undocumented folks, not just as survivors of the circumstances that we face, but as people that are proactively working, not just for our communities, but for our communities at large.
Amazing. So a very talented group here. Very amazing. So, something that was a theme in all of your films was really body and ancestry. I really felt that in the programming. So I wanted to ask you all to kind of speak to those themes, why they're important to you, how they present in your personal film, and, is it relevant to your personal experience, being undocumented? Mm-hmm. So that was a big question. So I will let you all decide who wants to go first.
I think for me personally, when I think about what I want to say as a filmmaker, what I want to do, what is the legacy you want to leave behind, the importance of our collective voices is that a lot of our narratives are never actually documented on paper or on visual mediums or anything. So just the act of telling our unique perspectives, our unique stories, we're in some ways documenting our own experiences, right? And I think that in itself is quite radical. So my intention has always kind of been that is even if my little film only it gets seen by two people, that's two people that have learned about my experience. Or like, we're all writing and always creating. And, sometimes in the hustle and bustle of like trying to move forward in this kind of cutthroat industry, just the act of writing something down, you are documenting an actual experience, a story, and it will forever live on in the world. And I think that's how I kind of step forward in terms of intention of including my ancestry and all that stuff. So.
Mm-hmm. Should I call on people? Nicole.
For FYI, I think that it's not so blatant, this theme, but it actually is just more around the character, Gia, and, what you see them describe as working hard for their ancestors or working hard for their family. And it's all about the survival of the undocumented person and their families and the realities that they face. And something that is so true to migrant experiences is that we sacrifice a lot for our families' livelihoods, and or we stay in a specific land or situation to kind of as an ode to our ancestors, to say like, you sacrifice all of this for us, I'm going to like do everything possible to kind of give them that sacrificial ode, and like make sure that, you know, we're doing exactly what they would hope we would be doing. So it's a lot, it's not as blatant, like the characters, specifically Gia doesn't necessarily blatantly say this, but it's shown with the language that they speak, and like the also the more or less like code wording that, you know, only an undocumented person would understand. So I think that's a particularly like a nuanced theme in the short film.
I also think, you know, in particular in that film, it's turning away from stereotyping your own body,
Exactly.
and your own person, right? So, Pablo, do you want to talk more about this?
Yeah, I can. I think the place, when I was talking with the writer, and a common theme that, you know, after having heart-to-heart conversations and just observations that I had noticed, there was a common theme of just, I think, just wanting to like exist, you know, not having to conform or change specific stories and nuances of, you know, who you are, and the history and the ancestry of what you do, and everything, just to fit a specific, you know, niche, and everything. And I think a lot of Hollywood filmmaking, you know, I think they really, you know, capitalize. I think back in the day, you know, they capitalized a lot on that, where it's like, you know, no, this is the way that you're supposed to act and talk, and you know, and then from my own experiences, you know, I would have some EPs or distribution individuals, and they'll say some really weird comments where like, oh, you know, that's not selling. And you know, and then so when, you know, coming from folks that are, you know, undocumented or first generation immigrants, we're on the survival mechanism where we feel like we have to succeed in everything. You know, that's something I really wanted to explore, where, you know, do we feel like, do I wanted to explore with the character and with the audience that, you know, no, you should feel comfortable with the stories and the perspective and the narratives that you do have in the story that you want to tell, and you shouldn't feel obligated because of circumstances, whether external or internal, to change the stories. You know, I think if you stay true to yourself, and the story that you want to tell, you know, it doesn't matter what any EP or any producer says in terms of, you know, how can we make the money back or anything like that, and anything like that. So that's something I wanted to explore, and kind of having that reaffirmation and validity to be like, no, these are the stories that I want to tell, and I have importance. You know, it is important to tell these stories, and to occupy space.
Yes, and I mean, I think in the Gem Project and in Tears in the Sky and Thank You Come Again, there's a very unique storytelling there. It's kind of a bit of a magical realism, you know, kind of the second half, I guess the, you know, second act of the series really kind of shifted in their storytelling. And so, Eriko, do you want to speak a little bit about your filmmaking style? Your use of animation was very beautiful, especially when it pertains to the body and ancestry.
Thank you. I think there's a direct correlation in terms of like the mythology behind the story that I narrated. And it's always interesting to narrate through figurative means. And the figure is very essential to my fine art in my series and the style of work that I do anyhow. But kind of like what Nicole was saying, it's not as obvious. I'm sure if people see this animation, I don't know that they will understand this was about an undocumented experience. But I guess from this, I learned that the film is a a propaganda medium, and it's actually a medium of interest for me, right? And so there's an educational component, and it's about reaching an audience too, and showing these diverse perspectives in different ways. And so, yeah, it's a field that I'm still exploring. I'm definitely a novice filmmaker, and for me now in my career, it's interesting to think about how things are received and the volume of the audience. Because, in a traditional gallery setting or even in museums, not everybody comes to that, and so how do I speak to even youth? Can animation reach youth? How can I, maybe depict my story in different languages and so forth? And these are just some of the questions that I ponder.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes. And Jazz, in Broken Dreams, there was this use of archival mixed with a narrative film, and how that had to deal with what ended up happening at the end of the film. So do you want to speak a little bit about that and about
Yeah, for sure. I think something that we were really trying to navigate in creating this project was the sense of the fact that the parents aren't present in the film, but there's such a huge part of the central question that the 16-year-old is asking, right? She's very disoriented. She just wants to know why her parents don't love her, why they left her. And I think a big theme that came up for us while we were discussing the script was just how access to ancestry is a very privileged thing sometimes, right? Like the 16-year-old girl doesn't even know what happened to her parents. And a lot of times the narrative, at least I hear in like white America, is like, oh, my great-great-grandfather came over on the Mayflower, right? And it's like having access to that kind of history comes with privilege. And so to be telling a story where this girl doesn't even have access to just her parents, much less her grandparents or beyond that, was an interesting thing to navigate. It was really amazing to use that VHS tape. We actually had to go through the archives, and the two women who are in the actual story, it's their VHS tapes, Amrita and Amani, my sisters. And it was such a beautiful thing to go through the archives because I had forgotten that my dad loved to film things. And I to some extent had thought like, oh, I'm going to go and be a filmmaker. And this is something no one in my family has ever done. And then we saw these film tapes and we're like, oh, my dad has been doing this for a while. And actually, this is something that has been passed on to me. And so that was just a really cool kind of way to explore my own family ancestry while making this project with my sisters. There were so many meta layers of just connection, of understanding where I come from that were happening. Yeah, and it was just such an incredible way to reconnect to the story and really give it a deeper meaning, and to be able to have a scene with those VHS tapes instead of, there were some people who are like, oh, maybe the way you show the parents is through an immigration raid. And we're like, oh, that's not the tone of the film. We're not trying to show trauma. We're trying to show, moments where these people were really deeply connected to each other. And it was really nice to be able to do that through this old nostalgic tapes instead of doing something that felt a little bit more out of sync with what we were trying to do. So I'm so glad that all of these different threads just kind of came together and helped form this incredible film.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And okay, go ahead. Pardon. Mm-hmm.
I actually wanted to add a comment to that because I think a lot of folks, or I think a lot of audiences, I think overlook VHS and those archive footage. And I wanted to add on to it because I think it kind of gives a home video vibe and more of an intimate, family relationship. And it's it's a little bit explored in FYI, and it's something that I like to always incorporate in films sometimes, because I think, we're so caught up with our phones and and all of our footage are always archived, whether it's our Snapchat stories or Instagram stories. And it takes more from what Jazz has shared, it's less on the focus of the trauma and more of this euphoric happiness of, being with loved ones and seeing the influences, personally, through your own through the characters' lens and growth and everything. That's something I wanted to add and stuff like that.
Yes, and Set, your film, I feel like you're documenting ancestors in the making. Like that really came off to me.
Oh, thank you so much, Chris. You've probably seen coverage like 100.
I know, I've seen it too many times
at this point. But thank you, Cristelos. Just thank you for all your support to all the work that we're doing, and for this very beautiful question. And I just want to piggyback off of what everybody said. I think a lot about this quote. I don't know if anyone has ever read the book Decolonizing Methodologies by Linda Tuhiwai Smith. She says, the remembering of a people relates not so much to the remembering of an idealized golden past, but rather a painful past, and importantly, people's responses to that pain. When you ask this question about ancestry and memory and remembering, right? I really think about filmmaking work, particularly for me as my work as a filmmaker, as an act of remembering. I'm kind of bad at imagining things that haven't happened or things that I imagine I would like the future to be. But I have a pretty good memory, strangely, and I think about documentary in particular as a way to remember what's happening right now, because in the future the things that we're going through will happen again, to people in future generations. And in a way, filmmaking is an opportunity to document how we're responding to the painful moments that our communities are going through. And hopefully from that, future generations can have a sense of, oh wow, we're not the first one to go through this, other people have gone through this, what did they do? And to your point about ancestors in the making, Tita Emma and Hector, are such really powerful leaders, that really model what that leadership can be like, for other folks in the future, when they're going through difficult situations also as a community.
Mm-hmm. And I think, something that I loved watching this program was the collaboration between everyone. We have Nicole and Paulo here. We have Jazz, all your siblings, we have all the future projects in the work for some of you all. So do you want to speak about the collaboration and why that's important for you in particular, and, what you want to provide for the community?
I can speak to that a little bit. I think what's so special about meeting other people with undocumented narratives is that we're not in the space of being extractive. We're in the space of being supportive and seen by each other. And we also all understand what it means to have that David and Goliath type of like the industry versus us little people, and also not necessarily having a lot of resources. So what we see in each other is ourselves, really. And when what we really see is like, if I'm feeling this particular way, I would hope that someone else would elevate me in this particular way. So even though, of course, like Erico or Set, we didn't particularly work hands-on with their projects, even Narab's projects. We opened up a space to really say, we may not be working on set with you or on the crew with you, but we're here to really be that hype person for you, for feedback sessions, or for marketing, or just even in the attendance, which we see in the comments, right? So I think that it's incredibly crucial to have this support system, because the system has definitely not supported us along the way. And it's so nice to have that newfound support in each other.
Paulo, I think you wanted to speak.
Yeah, I wanted to add on to what Nicole has just shared. I think with me personally, I think my philosophy, including with I think from the way that I grew up and everything like that, I feel like, if I'm eating, I want to make sure that everybody else is eating, and everything like that. And from what Nicole has shared.
Oh, you're muted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I think coming from a place from what Nicole has just shared, where we we feel like, I've had experiences, where sometimes I bring up my undocumented status to, studios, and then, we feel like a liability, and it's like, no, we have experiences and different perspectives to bring it to the table. And so I always feel like, if, especially working on FYI and any other future collaborations, I want to make sure that the people on board of the team are able to kind of take these experiences and kind of take it beyond the film and everything. And if I'm able to kind of lay that, not from a savior complex, but if I'm able, or if anybody else is able to lay that foundation where they do have these experiences and are able to, really learn from these things and bring it beyond. And I think, and while telling a great story, I think I, as a director and a community member, did a great job, because I always want to make sure that folks succeed and really bringing these experiences to the next project and to the next project and everything.
Yes, and I really think it's that collaborative nature that makes you all then become ancestors, right? Because you are trying to make sure that then the next generation will be able to step up too. We're trying to get slowly up the ladder, right, in terms of progress. So I think that that's just so wonderful. And so I also wanted to ask, what is the Undocumented Filmmakers Collective? How can people support you? How can people donate? Mm-hmm. Someone want to speak? Should I just call on Seth?
I was gonna say, I almost feel like this is a question for Ate Nicole.
Okay, go, producer.
Wow. Okay. Put me in the spot. Well, you could all follow us at UFC. Wait, let me see. Let me not get this wrong, because we just rebranded. But you can follow us at Undocu UFC on all socials. And then you can go to Allied Media Projects / Undocumented Filmmakers Collective to donate. But transparently, we also have projects that are currently fundraising right now. And I know, Jazz, maybe you want to speak to that.
Yes.
Thank you. That's so generous of you, Nicole. So speaking of just the nature of collaboration and whatnot, I'm currently creating a short film called Zindagi Dobara, Life Again, with Brown Girl Joy Productions. And a lot of members of UFC are either working crew or just really pubbing our fundraiser really hard right now. We're raising $15,000. We're almost at our goal. We need about 1,200 more. And I'll go ahead and drop the link to our Seed and Spark in the chat. It's an incredible story, an LGBTQ short narrative film, and it's set to film in January. We have some incredible mentors, Dilo and Sandeep Morrison, helping us write the script. And I would love for everyone to be part of the journey, because we're not just trying to create a short film, but we're trying to build a community. And we recently just hosted a Diwali event. So this is really just the beginning of getting a bunch of people hyped and building a community. And really, we're here for the long run. And these are people that we want to build with moving forward for the next however long my career is. I'll pass it back to you, Crystal.
Yes, I think this is now a perfect segue into, what is your social? How can we follow you? Are you fundraising? What is your next project? How can we support you? So I think, Jazz, if you just want to give us your handles and if there's anything else that you're working on.
Yeah, for sure. You all can follow us on Instagram at Brown Girl Joy, and you can follow also at Zindagi Dobara on Instagram. And yeah, fundraiser links are all there. I'll also throw it in the chat. I'll go ahead and popcorn it over to Nirav. Throw us your handles. Where can we support you?
You can find me on Instagram, slide into my DMs, Niravbakta_555. I'm currently developing my first feature film screenplay. I'm also in the Elevate Screenwriters Lab at UFC. Yeah, I'll popcorn it over to Erica.
Erica.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, everyone. So I don't have social media, but I'm still developing my film, and you can find all information on that on my website, which is my first and last name.com, ericotogo.com. And I'm still currently in process of developing my feature length, being able to go back to Mongolia. But that also has a lot to do with like advanced parole and documents. And so it's all about timing, but I'm staying positive with tremendous support from UFC, who is my family. Thank you so much, guys. You give me fire. Thank you. And I'll popcorn it over to Paulo.
Yeah, my social media right now is Paulo Rain 2 on Instagram. I'm currently part of the Undocumented Filmmakers Collective Writers Incubator Fellowship Program, curated by the one and only Set. Yeah, I think right now I think I'm in a great transitionary place where I'm gonna do one last short film before I hop into doing features and everything. So I'm in that cool transition of writing narrative shorts and really being part of the film industry and the community and stuff. And I have a popcorn at 2 Set.
Thank you so much, Paolo. And yeah, just as Paolo mentioned, 4 of the folks in this conversation are actually part of our screenwriters incubator. We have 12 people in the incubator, so we hope that folks can support the incredible screenwriting of these talented filmmakers and screenwriters. So thank you so much, everyone, for having us. And my handle and Instagram is my first and last name and then R, Set Hernandez R. And I'm currently working on a feature-length documentary that looks at the intersection of immigration, disability, and mental health. It's called Unseen, and hopefully it gets finished a year from now, so we get the premiere in 2024. And yeah, please support us, the collective in particular, and popcorn to Ate Nicole. And I also just want to give a shout out to Nicole, who just celebrated her birthday yesterday. So happy birthday, Ate Nicole. Yes.
Happy birthday. Wow. Now I also get like a birthday shout out. Thank you, everyone. Other than my birthday that I'm accomplishing, I am currently writing my first feature length narrative, which I unveiled this week. And it is in the just in the work. So there is no planning in other than just writing. But that is part of the Elevate Incubator program at UFC. And if you please want to donate to enrich a lot of the works that we're doing, feel free to go again to Allied Media Projects / Undocumented Filmmakers Collective to donate to more to create more environments just like this. And my social handle is Nicole, and my last name is Solisison. Thank you.
We only have like 2 more minutes left, so I wanted to do a really quick popcorn to end this. So we've been talking about ancestors, and so I think it'd be beautiful to leave, giving a shout out to our personal ancestors, right? So yeah, who wants to go first?
I actually can go. My film that I'm currently working on, that I'm writing, is actually for my dad, who recently passed away. And so I want to give a shout out in his loving name. And popcorn to Erico.
Thank you, Nicole. May he rest in peace. I would like to give homage to my ancestors of my land who are waiting for me, and I can't wait to come and pay homage to them in a long time. And to my grandfather, who's in critical health right now in Mongolia, but I send him my prayers. Thank you so much. And I popcorn it off to Jazz.
Hey, I think this is a beautiful, beautiful way to end. I want to give a shout out to my grandparents, and I think overall to the farmers in India. There's a lot happening with the farmers' protest, and so just the fact that we have this very beautiful, deep, rich history that is under attack in Punjab right now. I think it's important to highlight that. Also, I just want to take a quick second. I think someone referred to my film as Broken Dreams. It's actually Borrowed Dreams, the translation. And for me, that's very, very important just because I don't want the undocumented community ever to be labeled as broken. Rather, just we've been on some borrowed time and you know, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and popcorn it to set.
Thank you so much, Jazz. I want to uplift two people, and particularly one who is still with us, my mom, who is so amazing and the OG documentarian in my life. And I also just want to uplift Tita Maddie. If ever you get to watch coverage, you'll see Tita Maddie uplifted at the end of the film. So to these undocumoms, I'll popcorn to Nirav.
I would want to give a shout out to my grandmother. She's the matriarch of my family, and she's been through a lot of life. She just turned 90 this summer. She's smashed through patriarchy and a lot of hard times, survived another pandemic. And I think if it wasn't for her courage or support, like we wouldn't even be here today. So. And I'll popcorn to Ame.
I'd like to pay homage to my aunt who passed away in 2019, who was very supportive of me in my filmmaking journey and everything, and has definitely been an influence to the next script that I'm writing and stuff.
Well, thank you all so much for coming, and thank you for this beautiful closing. Please follow these ancestors in the making. Please follow the Undocumented Filmmakers Collective and check out the rest of past programming. Thank you all for coming. All right, bye.